Welcome to MTG Basics, where we teach you the basics of Magic the Gathering. This is Bad Kitty, and I'll be your guide to today's episode. In this video, we're going to talk about creatures. There's a vast selection of creatures in Magic the Gathering. Creatures can be big creatures, tiny creatures, creatures with big butts, and creatures that aren't even creatures, and so much more. Let's look at one magnificent creature card and absorb its content. I'm talking about Siege Rhino. Siege Rhino is a 4-cost creature spell that costs 1 white, 1 black, 1 green, and 1 generic mana to cast. On the creature type, we can see the type is Rhino. Creatures can be goblins, humans, dragons, angels, demons, slugs, cats, and much more. Additionally, creatures can share its permanent types with artifacts, enchantments, lands, and even planeswalkers. Making our way back to this beautiful beast, we can note that Siege Rhino only says creature, which means you can have as many Siege Rhinos on the battlefield under your control as your heart desires. However, a creature like Anafenza the Foremost, which says legendary creature by its creature type, means you can only have one on the battlefield under your control at the time. If you end up with 2 or more on the battlefield, you will need to pick one to keep and sacrifice the rest, i.e. move said permanents to the graveyard. This is called the legendary rule. There are some effects that eliminate the legendary rule, like Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. When looking at this gift from the skies, we can see that Siege Rhino has Trample, which is a static ability. There are different types of static abilities, and as well as other types of abilities, and those will be covered in more depth in a later video. Taking another look at this gorgeous rhinoceros, we can see that there's a text that says, when Siege Rhino enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. This effect would happen right as Siege Rhino successfully enters the battlefield. This is one of many different enter the battlefield effects. Looking towards the bottom of the card, we can see there's some italic text. This is flavor text, which provides mood or gives background information on the game world. It has no effect on the gameplay. Siege Rhino's flavor text is pretty accurate. The mere approach of an Abzan warbeast is enough to send its enemies fleeing in panic. Remember kids, Siege Rhinos always travel in a pack. When you see the first Siege Rhino, the second one isn't too far behind. Lastly, when looking at the bottom of the card, you can see a 4 and a 5. The 4 represents its power. It's how much damage this creature can do when fighting or in combat. The 5 represents toughness, which is how much damage this beautiful rhino can take before it unfortunately dies and goes to the graveyard. A true tragedy. When you play a creature from your hand or from a different zone, it needs to wait until your next turn before it can go to combat unless told otherwise by a different effect or if the creature has a special ability. Remember, there's a wide variety of creatures out there, from different colors, with different effects and different permanent types, and each creature can help you succeed in your strategy against your opponent. A player is allowed to have up to 4 copies of a card in a deck, with the exception of a few formats, so unfortunately, you cannot build a deck with only Siege Rhinos and lands. These were the basics to creatures and should get you started filling the battlefield with as many rhinos as your heart desires to trample your friends. If you have any questions or comments, let us know down below in the comment section. Thanks for watching and tune in next time to learn more MTG Basics.